5 of our states had gone to elections. Results are now pretty much out, and results are quite clear in each one of the states. So you might ask me, what's the clutter to cut today? What we are doing, on the other hand, is reading the message from these results, because these results, we know who's won, who's lost, no complexity, no clutter. But what does it mean to national politics going ahead? That is the important part. Now, usually what I do is, it is a series with an on-ground look at the mood in a poll-bound state that I call Writings on the Wall. In fact, you saw one edition of this last week from Uttar Pradesh. That comes out in place of national interest. Today, or this week, for this episode of Cut the Clutter, the numbers at the end of this 5-state poll campaign give us the other starker and more conventional version of the writings on the wall in terms of the dictionary meaning. I read 7 of these writings for you. So here is the first of the 7 points. 2 political phenomena began to rise in Indian politics in 2012. Narendra Modi and Arvind Kejriwal. In fact, Modi, with his 3rd successive win in Gujarat, became the frontrunner for the BJP's prime ministerial candidate in 2014. And in fact, on the eve of the 2012 election results, I had written my national interest column. National interest appears on Saturday. And I think the headline was something like, if Modi wins on Sunday. And the message was that if he wins, this will change national politics and this will radically change the BJP as well. In fact, I had gone on in that column to say that even his short-sleeved kurtas will now become a national style statement for the BJP, which sometimes you get it right, which is what happened. So 2012 was the point when he marked his rise on the national stage. So did Arvind Kejriwal. Kejriwal morphed from an apolitical activist to a full-time politician, albeit by launching a new party. In exactly a decade now, the first, that is Modi, is a colossus of the kind Indian politics has never seen. And I say that with some deliberation. I'm careful about using adjectives. I'm a political analyst. Quite khadus when it comes to using adjectives, or particularly positive adjectives about political people. Nehru as Prime Minister had no challenger. You might say, oh, what about Nehru and Indira Gandhi? Nehru as Prime Minister had no challenger. Nehru had many detractors, but no challenger for power. Indira Gandhi had a head start as his daughter. Modi is a self-made, non-dynast, and now unbeatable in a sufficient expanse of the country, all of the Hindi heartland, North and Maharashtra so far, and Gujarat, but sufficient expanse of the country to remain the unassailable national leader. The repeat Uttar Pradesh landslide carves this on the wall. Next point. Kejriwal began with nothing but a proposition that was apolitical or even anti-politics. Mera neta chor hai, right? There was skepticism. When he launched a political party, people said, what does he stand for? What's his ideology? Can anti-corruption be an ideology? Can he jump the formidable entry barriers of Indian politics? A decade later, he's done all of that. His political ideology is indeed what his war cry as an activist was. Our politics sucks. In essence, therefore, he's still anti-politics but anti-conventional politics. The change is that his alternative is now no longer mere angry, politically anodyne, ideologically anodyne activism, but a new politics of his own kind. Welfareism and efficient delivery to the poor to rival the BJP's or NDA's, unapologetic Hindu religiosity to match the RSS. Remember, he had read out the entire Hanuman Chalisa at a TV interview, even if he may have mugged it up on his way to the studio. But he did that. He also held that big event in Delhi at a cardboard venue that looked like a replica of the Ram temple, for example. So he has displayed unapologetic Hindu religiosity to match the RSS. And nationalism louder than Modi's, and a quiet substitution of Gandhi, Nehru or Savarkar as the standard bearers of Indian nationalism with Sardar Bhagat Singh and Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Those are the two least polarizing figures in our politics. Nobody wants to question them because too many votes hang on them. And they are too non-controversial. You might abuse Nehru. You might abuse Nehru 24 by 7, even call Gandhi names often enough, sometimes hail Godse as a hero, unfortunately. But now pit Ambedkar and Bhagat Singh versus Gandhi and Savarkar respectively. You know the winning side. Now, how sharp Kejriwal is in his politics, this gives you an evidence. No amount of woke poking persuaded him or his key lieutenants to show up at Shaheen Bagh or during Delhi riots. He kept completely quiet during Delhi riots, although his secular followers upbraided him for that a great deal and quite rudely, but he didn't bother. He knows politics. Now he's won Punjab. So after Delhi and Punjab, two states under his belt, now how many leaders in India have formed a political party, a sui generis political party, and grown to govern two states or gone to even matter in two states? Mulayam Singh Yadav confined to Uttar Pradesh. Mayawati, Kashiram confined to Uttar Pradesh. Also, although they contested elections in many other states. In fact, even in this election, not only have they been wiped out in UP, but even in Punjab, which has the largest Dalit population in the country. Lalu Yadav remained confined to Bihar. Mamta Banerjee in West Bengal. Jagan in Andhra. Stalin or DMK in Tamil Nadu. He has become the first leader in a very long time and probably unprecedented who founded a party in his own lifetime and is now ruling two states. So he's become now a pan-state party, to that extent a genuine national party, because he has presence in other states also. He will keep winning the odd MLA seat or MP seat here and there. So after Delhi and Punjab, after adding Punjab to Delhi, he is now headed to vacuum cleaning the Congress vote in Gujarat later this year. Muslims will likely vote for him in Gujarat as well, because they will see him, the moment they see him as the leader more likely to defeat the BJP, that vote will shift to him. And that is Congress's problem. I will talk about it in a moment. Now, next point. For 60 years, since we became a republic in 1950, our politics was all structured around the Congress and its conception of a socialist secular state, sort of in the Nehruvian vision, which Indira Gandhi then defined or redefined in her own way. That epoch has now faded fully. It's been fading for a decade. Now it has ended fully. You can say that quite safely. Now we are wading neck deep into a new BJP/RSS/Hindu nationalism epoch. The preference of Hindu nationalism over Hindutva, I have made consciously. Religion has its oomph, but the pull of religiously defined new nationalism is enormously greater. Today, if all of BJP's rivals in Uttar Pradesh made a spectacle of walking to the Kashi Vishwanath temple across the new corridor, which by the way I quite like, the secular republic has been redefined. Everybody, you may like it, you may not like it, but the fact is that it's been redefined. Everybody has fallen in line. Today we have a new nationalism, a new secularism, and increasingly a new socialism redefined as efficient, non-leaky welfareism. So while you might privatize public sector undertakings, you make sure that what you send out to the poor gets delivered in time and without leakage and the usual friction that a citizen has when it comes to dealing with the sarkari machinery, with government machinery. So this is no longer leaky welfareism or empty socialist slogans. Now we come to the next point. And I am tempted to say that the next writing on the wall is an epitaph of two major political parties in India, Congress and BSP. But let me be cautious and say that both are not quite dead yet, both are on the ventilator. The Congress still runs 2.5 states, 2 states being Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh, and half is Maharashtra and Jharkhand combined, where Congress shares power with others. It also has access to some resources because it has control over these states. But given how compulsively efficient and successful the Congress has been with setting its own house on fire, you would wonder how long will Rajasthan last. Congress's nemesis is snapping at its heels and it's Aam Aadmi Party, not BJP. Gujarat will be the next test. With a more serious and smarter leadership, Congress may still be redeemable. I don't know if that will happen. And it's also getting improbable by the day as it loses its loyal vote not to the BJP but to other challengers in the anti-non-BJP space. See some examples. To Mamta in Bengal, to Jagan in Andhra, to NCP in Maharashtra, to Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi and now Punjab. The only state where it has lost its vote to the BJP, interestingly, lately, are Tripura and now increasingly Telangana. That's a work in progress. For how long will the DMK keep dragging this broken wagon, this chakra of Congress party in Tamil Nadu is a good question for which I don't have an answer, but it's a question worth thinking about. Fifth point, if the BSP looks even more hopeless, it is because this election has affirmed a fundamental shift in UP's politics. For more than 3 decades now, UP politics or UP elections have been a 3.5 party race. Why do we say 3.5? BJP, SP, BSP and Congress. Congress being the half party. Now the half had more or less disappeared already, but now it's become a straight two-party race. It's a BJP-SP fight. Nobody can get power in UP anymore by adding one or two castes to Muslims and getting an aggregate of about 30% vote. Aam Aadmi Party this time has got its highest vote percentage ever. Much more than they had got in 2012 to get a full safe majority. And yet they are so far behind the BJP because now it's a straight fight between them and the BJP. So you cannot win that state with 30, 32, 33, 34, 35% vote share. You need to get into the 40s. And there BSP now finds itself completely down and out. So the formula that SP and BSP used in the past, which is to have Muslims and add one or two more castes, is not going to work. And BSP right now seems too distant from that. In fact, in terms of what happens in the future, BSP has declined to where recovery is near impossible, especially as Muslims are unlikely to trust it again because they've been too close or they've been seen to be too close with the BJP. They've also shared power with the BJP in the past, which SP hasn't done. What this means is that an incredible new experiment that Kashiram started or he launched almost 40 years ago has now been slaughtered halal style by his chosen successor. That is Mayawati. Which brings us to point number 6, the decimation of Shiromani Akali Dal, the most openly and formally religious party in India. This will have consequences that go far beyond electoral politics. The unique Sikh tradition of drawing political power from the religion or the Panth, Sikh Panth, Khalsa Panth, the much celebrated union of church and the state, the church in this case obviously is the Gurdwara, this will not go away because after all, one of the gurus himself said, for our religion to survive, we also need political power. So he said that from now on, I will bear two swords, ek miri ki, ek piri ki, right? So piri is for faith, for religion, and miri is for temporal power. So in the Sikh tradition, Akal Takht, for example, is the supreme seat of spiritual, that is religious, or temporal, which is political power. That will not go away. If anything, with all political power gone now, with the destruction of the Shiromani Akali Dal, it will manifest in complex ways that I'd rather not talk about just now. Now, this change in Punjab is not merely political. Can you keep faith completely out of politics in a state where people get lynched on mere suspicion of sacrilege and the police dare not act? Now, the Sikh shrines are controlled by an institution called Shiromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee. Now, that is run by an elected body and it's elected by Sikhs. Now, Akalis have been winning the SGPC elections and Akalis control the SGPC and so indirectly they also control the word that comes out of the Sikh shrines, which can be the equivalent of papal bulls, for example, hukamnamas as these are called. Now, can Aam Aadmi Party win an SGPC election? Or what if the Aam Aadmi Party wins an SGPC election? We know we are walking into intricacies of non-heartland politics that might make you yawn. But the fact is that you might just end up hearing more on this as the electoral dust settles because Akalis are down and out, but Sikh religious politics is not down and out. And that is something which has emerged out of this election result. And finally, this is the last point, the seventh and the last point. Another star has firmly risen in the BJP, and there is no surprise as to who he is. That is Yogi Adityanath. He is now the second most popular leader in the BJP. The base, as it's called, the BJP's base, adores him. In fact, they say he's even better than Modi because Modi ji sirf kehte hain, Yogi ji karte hain. That Modi ji only talks about things, but Yogi delivers on those. And you can imagine the things they are talking about. Now, the BJP has many ruthless leaders with super sharp political minds. But none has all of that and Yogi's charisma and personal ambition. Plus, as the youngest major leader in the country, younger than Rahul or even Kejriwal, he's got time on his side. Some consternation among the party seniors is now inevitable. Track his moves closely if you are interested in national politics.